We have a massive coaching update from the Boston Bruins as Kevin Weekes has revealed the remaining candidates left for this team, and fans are very split on what this list contains. We're going to be looking at all this here in this video and going over the implications this has on the Bruins season and their current rebuild throughout this offseason here in this video. Very quickly, before we jump into this major news that we have here today, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We're closing in on 7K. Your sport's been absolutely incredible as of late. We know that 62% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. So if you're looking for a spot for all of your Boston Bruins news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button, join us here. But we have a lot to cover. Let's get straight into it and not waste any more time. This is a tweet that Kevin Weekes put out moments ago saying, per source, Jay Woodcroft, Mitch Love, and Marco Sturm are among the favorites as potential hires for the Bruins, Penguins, and Kraken. Now, when it comes down to this, three of these we know are the big Bruins guys. Marco Sturm, Woodcroft, Mitch Love was someone who kind of sprinkled in here and there for this, but when it does come down to it, we have more tweets, more quotes here coming out from closer to the situation Bruins analysts. This here from Scott McLaughlin. Wording a little bit confusing here, but I do think at least Woodcroft and Sturm remain in serious candidates for the Bruins as they approach the end of the process. Don't have a great feel for where things stand on Love, to be honest. Lots of smoke around Love landing with the Penguins, which is something that I think we're all okay with. Mitch Love, definitely a great candidate. However, there's a shining name among the rest of them here that really suits the Boston Bruins much better than Mitch Love. So when we kind of go back to that list that Kevin Weekes had here, you see Jay Woodcroft and Marco Sturm, the Bruins, Penguins, and Kraken. Now, we know that there's some uncertainty surrounding the Kraken where they stand. The Penguins were someone that, if Mitch Love is there, that works out for us. But there's two of those shining candidates here right now that I think we're really locked in on for a Bruins candidate. And one more kind of look here from David Pastrnak as well on the situation. Sounds like the Bruins are in the final stages of their head coaching search this week. Both Marco Sturm and Jay Woodcroft are among the remaining contenders for the job. Woodcroft had his latest follow-up interview the other day. So now we know this week was sort of the week that we were all expecting a hire coming. We saw the quotes coming out from the Bruins, their situation after they signed Don Sweeney, that they were going to really have a take a look and go for their further processing interviews here throughout this weekend. We should know by the end of the week, or at least have a very good idea of where the Bruins not just stand, but who will likely be the coach of this Boston Bruins team. Now, before we kind of dive into the options here and going over why one of these candidates is much worse than the other, I wanted to take a look at where we currently stood a couple days ago. And, at the end of last video, I kind of put out that McDougal idea there. Doesn't seem to be the case, but I feel like there was certainly at least some conversation there. But seems like now at least Joe Sacco, Jay Leach are really out of the conversation with Misha Donskov, with Mark Savard, and we kind of really stand with those bottom three there. And, I would argue taking Mitch Love out of that. We're currently standing with Woodcroft, with and Sturm. And there's some positives and negatives for someone on this list, and there's someone that I think really is the only option the Bruins should go after due to one very specific circumstance currently going on with the Bruins. So I want to take a look here at this. I want to take a look at what we're looking from Jay Woodcroft, his past as a coach. Now, when we look at Bakersfield, he was a great coach for Bakersfield, and the last few seasons going off before getting promoted to the Oilers head coaching position. And those 2 seasons he had with the Oilers as full seasons, or the full and a half, I guess you could say, certainly bring a lot of interesting ideas from this. Great season, great look, and it was a very, very good team. There's no denying that. But whatever coach it would have been there, with Connor McDavid, with Leon Draisaitl, with that very, very good Edmonton Oilers team, it makes you really wonder how much of an impact a guy like Jay Woodcroft really had. And it goes to show, after his third season, or during his third season, when they started off 3-9, he was out immediately. And that caused a lot of concern for the Bruins, I think, in my mind, especially when they do not have those superstars among Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Obviously, David Pastrnak is almost at that level. It's kind of hard to be, at those two players' level nowadays, but when you're looking at that, they really controlled that team, and it goes to show that while this team is really building, how much influence and impact will Jay Woodcroft have on a rebuilding team? That's where the concern comes in for me, because, when you go and look at his doings in the past, of course, that Bakersfield team had a lot of younger players. They did win the Calder Cup in 2020 and 2021 season, but when you're looking at the rest of his career, a lot of that was due to the players that were around him, and it gives us a lot of uncertainty surrounding what he could do to some younger players not at the level of McDavid, of Draisaitl. And, when you go and look at a guy like Marco Sturm, you see what he did with the LA Kings as assistant coach. But then, the bigger thing, what he did with the Ontario Reign in the AHL the last few seasons. Some of the players that he had there, although they didn't win a Calder Cup, you see, lost in the qualifying round, lost in the second round, and now, of course, this year, when you're looking at his ideas as a coach, his impact as a coach, he coached guys like Quinton Byfield, Elias Anderson, a few different options there, of course, but Brant Clark, a lot of these younger players on the LA Kings now who are becoming superstars. They are already stars. They went through the Marco Sturm coaching process in the AHL before cracking the LA Kings roster. And we're looking at a roster for the Bruins that is going to be eerily similar to the LA Kings and Ontario Reign over the next few seasons, where you're going to have a lot of younger players coming in. You're going to have a lot of these players who may have sprinkled in the AHL for a little while, trying to crack the NHL, that have been developing for a little bit longer than the Bruins would like. That is the style of coach that Marco Sturm is. They said they were going out looking for a coach who can develop younger players, who have a revitalized offense. Marco Sturm has all of that, and this is really where I'm seeing the much bigger impact that Marco Sturm would have than Jay Woodcroft from past experiences, from the players that they've coached, from every given scenario. The odds are going like this to me, where you're seeing much, much more positivity, much more impact from a guy like Marco Sturm. And now I do have a few more screenshots I kind of wanted to go over here. When you're looking at this offense, you do see a lot of younger players, of course. Morgan Geekie, I would still classify him as that. 26 years old, really seems to be hitting his prime, especially after the latter half of this season. After December, when he really started to heat up to get that 30-goal season. The Bruins have made the trades at the trade deadline to get younger, to get better, to have more talent among these names. And when you see guys like Fraser Minton, Matt Poitras, Fabian Lysell, Marat Kuznetsov, John Beecher, so many more players, Georgi Merkelov, so many more of these names that are waiting to get into this roster, are looking to be at least considered to be a roster spot here in this year, if not already be able to get into this spot. Marco Sturm really is the guy that these players need. Not want, but need. And it's been proven. It's been proven that he's able to do that with the LA Kings, compared to a guy like Jay Woodcroft, who we really don't know, don't see that full transition from an AHL junior player to an NHL star. And that's what the Bruins are really going to need if they want to complete this rebuild much sooner than what it could be. But one more thing I wanted to point it out for Jay Woodcroft here is when he had that 50-win season with the Edmonton Oilers, you look at the rest of the standings, there are many teams, many more teams who had over 50 wins. Did they have as good players as Connor McDavid, as Leon Draisaitl? Absolutely not. That's very tough to do. And, having 5 teams ahead of you, the Boston Bruins, of course, that was their record season, 65 wins. It really is a good look at what Jay Woodcroft, compared to any other coach, would have done for that Edmonton Oilers team. And I think it's an interesting thing to really take a look at and imply when it comes to what would Jay Woodcroft do as the coach of, in this instance, the Boston Bruins. So I want to know what you guys think. Where do you stand right now? What do you think we're going to see when it comes to the Boston Bruins coaching search as we narrow down to what it seems like 2 names? Would you be okay with Jay Woodcroft? That's my real question, because personally, I don't think so. When it comes to Marco Sturm, he's been given every accolade that he can. Maybe not having the Calder Cup win, a Stanley Cup win and whatnot, but when it comes down to it, his play or his coaching style with the LA Kings, with the Ontario Reign, to me, has shown everything for the Boston Bruins that they need to get. So let me know what you think in the comments below, because I'm very curious, and I'm expecting that we're going to have a lot of news with this over the next few days. So hit the sub button if you haven't already to stay up to date with the Bruins coaching search and everything that we have to bring you here in this offseason. That's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well, but I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.